With that, moving on to 10, adopt the ordinance 2015 edition of the International Fire Code and Fire Prevention. Jim Matthews, it's good to see you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the community. I'm Jim Matthews, your fire marshal, retired, so I guess now I'm your interim fire marshal for an undetermined amount of time. Here before you tonight for the triennial adoption of the fire code. Every 3 years, the California Building Standards Commission adopts new building standards. One component of that is the fire code. I need to give you a little bit of background, but I don't want to give you too much because I don't want to take anything away from the next item, which is the bulk of the building standards code, but you have to have some understanding to do mine. So every 3 years, the Building Standards Commission reaches out and reviews primarily building standards codes developed initially by the International Code Council, then various state agencies. So in the case of the fire code, the California State Fire Marshal's Office reviews that international fire code for its relationship with the California Health and Safety Code, primarily to make sure it works well with the excuse me, I'm a little sick tonight, with the existing statutes in California, and then makes recommendations for any changes, for any upgrades. They make those recommendations to the Building Standards Commission. That then becomes Part 9 of the California Building Standards Code, and then that is mandated adoption in California effective January 1. One of the things that's really different about the fire code from the remainder of the building standards codes is the fire code also has components that are operational and maintenance type issues where the other codes don't have that. So because the building standards code only contains building standards, the State Fire Marshal's Office and then the Building Standards Commission only adopted the portions of the fire code that were building standards. So that leaves us then with components that, unless we adopt them, we don't have those tools to be able to use them to protect our community. So the piece that's left that we're asking for to introduce the ordinance tonight is the remainder of the code that is not mandated in California. So with that bumbling story, I will request that you introduce the ordinance and waive the first reading, and I will attempt to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions or comments from the council? Well, actually, I do have something regarding bullet point on the analysis, number 2, the permit, the sale of safe and sane fireworks. Now, it does not have to do with safe and sane themselves, but the wonderful, massive displays that we have throughout our community that are very pleasing to the eyes, but are illegal, extremely, and very dangerous. We have had a few fires, roof fires and odds and ends over the last few years with those displays being put out there. And is there any thing that we can actually start to move forward with the help of, let's say, the people from TNT that have done in other communities to try to tighten up on this, put some teeth into some ordinances, do some changes to, I don't want to say eliminate those, but curb them, do something that we can actually have lasting results?
That's a challenging dilemma that we have. The only relationship, frankly, between safe and sane fireworks and the unlawful fireworks are the fact that they're fireworks.
Yeah.
There are statutes on the books in the Health and Safety Code and in the Penal Code that define the fact that the unlawful fireworks are illegal. So it's primarily a law enforcement issue, and we try every year. We have a relationship, and we work with the police department on some enforcement issues. Obviously, the fire department, while the fire department it is your agency that has the knowledge of what's lawful and what's unlawful with respect to fireworks, but we don't have the tools to cite and arrest. So there needs to be a relationship between police and fire and a task force, if you will, to address that. You mentioned TNT, for example. When we developed the fireworks ordinance, which was initially a standalone ordinance from this, and we incorporated it into this code adoption, that was done with TNT and with Phantom, trying to work together on the fireworks issue. And while we inspect every single fireworks booth in the city every year to make sure that the type of fireworks they're selling are actually safe and sane and legal in California, there has never been an incident, and in my whole career here and the previous place I worked, never a situation where we found fireworks in a booth that were not legal in California. So,
Wow.
while it's an issue that we absolutely need to address, it's extremely frustrating, but it's truly not something that the fire department can solve.
Thank you for the information and for comments.
Through the mayor, I mean, we opened up the fireworks discussion, and being a patriot and one that likes to see visual displays, patriotism, I also am quite perplexed with the range of time that we have for the display of said fireworks. And I think it would be simple in a city like this, absent a moratorium on public display, that we limit the time period in which safe and sane fireworks can be ignited. It would be simple to say that it gets dark at roughly 9:15 at night, and by midnight people should be done. I'm quite honestly sick and tired of worrying starting on about June 30th, all the way up to, I believe, July 31st, when someone may ignite an aerial display for their own satisfaction over various types of roofs, neighborhoods, and quite honestly, it's a safety issue, not only for human beings but for animals in our community. And I think that we need to seriously look at curbing in some way, and it's not all on the fire department. It's on the citizens of Yuba City to be responsible enough to abide by that. And I would certainly, as we take steps forward, certainly be willing to look at various ways to curb, again, public display, and certainly attack the unlawful fireworks.
Well, I don't necessarily want to open up a can of worms here. I do want to, in the state of California, safe and sane fireworks are legal to display any day of the year, and safe and sane, unless the local jurisdiction
Correct.
shrinks that time. There's a June 28th to July 6th is the only time you can sell or purchase them in California. And I don't think we've had an incident of safe and sane fireworks causing a problem. It all boils back to the unlawful ones. And so while I too am very sick of all of that, we need to get a handle somehow on the unlawful fireworks. If we can get a handle on that, and frankly, if we can get some arrests and some prosecutions, because some of these can be prosecuted at felony level, if we can get cooperation between police and fire and the district attorney's office, we can get some felony arrests and prosecutions, and I believe our problems will start going away.
Okay.
One more thing I need to point out. I was made aware at 1:30 this afternoon of a letter from a local engineer wanting to, has had some concerns about a portion of the fire code adoption relative to the fire sprinkler ordinance that's been in place since 1992. The letter was read to me over the phone, so I have not read it myself. So the chief and I are going to meet with the engineer in this interim time period and find out what the concerns actually are.
Okay, between the first and the second reading.
Yes, but that particular piece has been in place unchanged since 1992. It served this city very well.
Thank you. Chief, did you have any? Okay, you were kind of moving, I wasn't sure. Now, are there any other comments from council members? And I would like to thank Councilman Buckland for heading the direction he did, because that was my indirect implication of a direction that I would like, basically, hopefully the staff and other members of the council to move towards, is do some research and find out what we can start to move forward with on this. So I guess that's an informal request or public one for that direction. With no other comments, I'd like to have action.
Move to approve.
Okay, and then waive the first reading
Waiving the first
part of
reading.
the, okay. I learned it at the county, we still say that, so I'm still stuck on some of those things. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, unanimous passing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And go home, go to bed. Get some rest.